The sun was sinking low, casting a golden glow over the vast, untamed plains. The breeze was warm and dry, rustling through the tall grasses and sending ripples across the wide stretches of earth. In the distance, the jagged silhouette of the mountains rose like ancient sentinels, their peaks dusted with snow. For the rider, this land was both beautiful and perilous, a place where danger lurked just beyond the horizon. Elena sat tall on her horse, Arion, a proud, jet-black steed with muscles rippling beneath his sleek coat. He was a gift from her father, a horse trained in both speed and endurance, able to carry her swiftly across long distances. Today, she had ridden farther than usual, crossing into the wild, uncharted territories that lay beyond the border of the kingdom. She had heard whispers of strange happenings in this part of the world, disappearances, shadows seen in the trees, and a general unease among the few villagers who lived nearby. But Elena, young and brave, was determined to see for herself. Her heart beat with the thrill of adventure, and she trusted Arion more than any man or woman. The path was narrow and winding, threading through dense thickets and the occasional clearing. Elena had grown used to the rhythm of Arion's hooves, the steady clip-clop that seemed to match the beat of her heart. Yet today, there was an unsettling silence. The birds had stopped singing, and even the wind had stilled, as though holding its breath. Arion, normally calm and sure-footed, seemed restless. His ears flicked back, and his head jerked slightly to one side, sensing something hidden in the shadows. "Elena," a voice whispered in her mind, warning her of the danger ahead. She glanced around, but there was nothing visible. The trees seemed like silent watchers, their thick branches casting long, eerie shadows across the ground. She pulled gently on the reins, urging Arion to slow. He stopped, snorting in unease, and she dismounted, her boots sinking into the soft earth. Her eyes scanned the surroundings, but everything appeared to be still. Yet she could feel it, something wasn't right. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the air, and Elena's pulse quickened. She whirled around, her hand instinctively reaching for the knife she kept strapped to her waist. But before she could draw it, the ground beneath them trembled. Arion's muscles tensed beneath her, his nostrils flaring as he snorted in alarm. From the trees emerged a massive figure, its eyes gleaming with hunger, its jaws dripping with saliva. A wild predator, larger than any wolf or bear Elena had ever seen, prowled forward. Its fur was dark, mottled with patches of gray and black, its body thick and muscular, its teeth long and sharp like daggers. Elena's heart slammed in her chest, and she instinctively stepped back, her breath caught in her throat. This creature wasn't just any wild animal, it was something far more dangerous. It moved with a predator's grace, its eyes locked on her, calculating. Arion, sensing the immediate threat, whinnied loudly and reared back on his hind legs, hooves striking at the air. The wild creature hissed, lowering its head as it growled again, taking a step closer, its eyes never leaving Elena. The beast was determined to claim her as its prey. Before Elena could react, Arion's instincts took over. With a force that startled even her, the black stallion charged, his hooves pounding the earth with terrifying speed. He was faster than the wild creature, and in a flash, Arion collided with the beast, knocking it off balance. The creature howled in fury, but Arion stood his ground, his body a shield between the predator and Elena. The wild animal staggered to its feet, its eyes flashing with anger as it lunged at the horse. Arion spun around, his hooves connecting with the beast's side, sending it sprawling. But the creature was not finished. It lashed out with its claws, raking across Arion's flank with a vicious swipe. Elena gasped, her hands shaking as she gripped the reins, watching in horror. Arion neighed in pain but fought on. The animal snarled and swiped again, tearing through the horse's flesh. Arion reared up again, trying to strike the beast with his hooves, but the wild animal was relentless. The two beasts fought, a blur of teeth, claws, and hooves, while Elena stood frozen, unsure of what to do. The air was thick with tension and fear. She knew the creature was too powerful to be defeated easily, but Arion fought with every ounce of strength he had. Each strike from his hooves seemed to push the predator back, but the creature wasn't retreating, it was only growing angrier. "Elena, get back," she heard a voice, her own mind urging her to find shelter, to run. But she couldn't leave Arion behind. He was her protector, her companion. She couldn't just abandon him now, not when he was fighting so hard to save her. The battle raged on, each moment stretching into an eternity. Alina's breath quickened, her hands trembling as she looked for a way to help, but there was nothing she could do. All she could do was watch as Arion fought with everything he had, buying her time to escape. But she had no chance to move. The wild animal was fast, and despite Arion's best efforts, it soon managed to sink its teeth into the horse's shoulder. Arion cried out in pain, but the wild beast wouldn't stop. With one final, desperate lunge, the predator sank its teeth deep into the horse's throat. Arion faltered, his legs buckling as he collapsed to the ground. Alina screamed, rushing toward him, but the beast was still there, circling its prey. The moment seemed to stretch endlessly, but the black stallion's spirit wasn't gone yet. With a final, valiant effort, Arion kicked the predator one last time, sending it staggering back. Then, with a shuddering breath, he collapsed fully to the earth, the life draining from him as the wild creature let out a victorious growl. Alina knelt beside him, her heart shattered. But the wild creature wasn't finished. It was turning toward her now, its eyes burning with hunger. Alina's heart hammered in her chest, her eyes locked onto the wild beast, which was slowly advancing toward her. It had claimed its victory over Arion, and now it turned its attention to her, its primal hunger palpable in the air. The creature's eyes gleamed with malice, its powerful body moving with a slow, predatory grace. Every instinct in Alina screamed at her to run, but her feet were frozen in place, her hands trembling. For a moment, everything went still. The wind held its breath, the sun's fading light cast long shadows, and even the distant rustling of the leaves seemed to fade into silence. Only the beast's guttural growls filled her ears as it took another step forward, its teeth bared in a menacing snarl. "Alina, run?" Her own voice broke the stillness, a quiet whisper in her mind, though it was not her voice alone. It was Arion's, his spirit reaching out to her, urging her to survive. His sacrifice had bought her precious moments, but now it was up to her. She couldn't let it all end here. Her body moved before her mind could process, her legs finally working to push her backward. But the wild creature was faster than she could anticipate. In a blur, it lunged at her, its claws aimed for her throat. Just as the beast was nearly upon her, something else shifted in the air. Arion had fallen, his life ebbing away, but his legacy was not finished. From the edge of the clearing, a new figure emerged, a blur of motion, almost imperceptible against the setting sun. It was another horse, a mare with a coat of silver gray, almost ethereal in appearance, with eyes as sharp and clear as the skies after a storm. The mare came charging in from the side, her hooves striking the earth with power. Alina's heart skipped a beat as the new horse, a creature wild and untamed, collided with the predator in a stunning burst of motion. The wild beast let out a startled growl, turning just in time to face its new opponent. The silver mare, her eyes fierce, bore down on the beast with incredible speed. Her hooves struck the creature's side, sending it staggering, momentarily disoriented. Alina, wide-eyed, watched in disbelief. How had this new horse arrived? Where had it come from? The wild creature, no longer certain of its victory, hissed and bared its teeth, circling the mare cautiously. The two animals faced each other, a standoff of primal fury. The mare wasn't backing down. It was clear now, this wasn't just any horse. This was a protector, much like Arion, though she seemed wild and untamed in a way that no horse Alina had ever seen was. "Alina, move." The command broke through her stunned silence. The voice wasn't hers, it was Arion's, but it sounded different now, clearer, almost as though he had passed the baton to the silver mare. Alina's heart surged with renewed determination. With all the strength she could muster, she forced herself to her feet and darted for the nearby trees. Every muscle in her body screamed in protest, but she didn't dare look back. She had to get away. She had to survive. As she ran, the sound of hooves echoed behind her. The silver mare, with grace and fury, continued her battle with the wild creature. Alina's heart pounded in her chest as she pressed deeper into the forest, the shadows growing longer as the sun set behind the mountains. Her eyes scanned the area, looking for a safe place, anything that might protect her from the danger that still loomed. Her lungs burned as she stumbled over roots and rocks, but she didn't dare stop. She couldn't look back. She didn't know how long the silver mare could hold off the predator, but she knew her chances of survival depended on putting as much distance between herself and the beast as possible. The darkness of the forest closed in around her, and she began to feel the weight of the grief that had consumed her heart. Arion was gone. His sacrifice had been immense. He had fought until his last breath to save her. She could still hear his neighs in her mind, feel his strength beneath her, as though he was urging her on. She had to survive, not just for herself, but for him. Eventually, after what felt like hours, Elena found a small cave nestled against the side of a steep hill. It wasn't much, just a shallow recess in the stone, but it would offer some shelter for the night. She stumbled inside, collapsing against the cool walls, gasping for air. She closed her eyes, her body trembling with exhaustion and fear. She could still hear the sounds of the struggle, faintly, in the distance. The silver mare and the wild creature, would they still be fighting? Was the predator still out there? And then, as if from the depths of her despair, she heard a voice. It was soft, gentle, and yet full of strength. "Elena, you are safe. The wild thing will not find you." It was Arion's voice, distant yet soothing, as though he was still with her, still watching over her. Her chest tightened as tears filled her eyes. She had lost him, but perhaps she hadn't truly lost him. Perhaps his spirit was still with her, guiding her through the darkness. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden noise, a rustle from outside the cave. Elena's breath hitched. Was it the wild creature? Had it tracked her here? She held her breath, straining to hear any sign of movement. But then, a familiar shape appeared at the entrance of the cave. It was the silver mare, her coat shimmering in the pale light of the moon. She stood at the entrance, her eyes steady, watching Elena with a gaze that seemed almost wise. The mare stepped closer, and Elena, overcome with emotion, reached out to her. The silver mare lowered her head, nuzzling the girl gently, as if offering her comfort in the wake of the chaos. "Elena," the mare's voice echoed softly in her mind, just as Arion's had. "You must rest now. The journey is not over. We will guide you, protect you. Arion's spirit is with you, and you are never alone." Elena's eyes fluttered closed, the weight of her exhaustion finally taking hold. She had survived. But the wilds were far from conquered, and there was still more to her journey than she could yet understand. The predator might be gone for now, but the real fight, against fear, against the unknown, was just beginning. The first rays of dawn filtered through the trees, casting soft light into the cave. Elena awoke with a start, her heart still racing from the night's terror. She sat up slowly, the events of the previous day flooding back. Arion was gone, and the wild creature had been defeated, thanks to the silver mare, but the weight of loss still pressed heavily on her chest. She had barely caught a full breath when she heard a sound at the entrance to the cave. She stiffened, instinctively reaching for her knife. But then, the familiar shape of the silver mare stepped into view. The mare's coat shimmered like moonlight on water, her eyes calm and knowing as they met Elena's. "Elena," the mare's voice filled her mind once more, gentle and reassuring. "It is time to move forward. Arion's sacrifice was not in vain. He has passed on, but his spirit lives on in you. His courage, his heart, they are part of you now. You must carry them with you." Elena felt a surge of emotion rise within her, but she forced it down. Arion was gone, but the mare, this new companion, was here. And there was something comforting in her presence. The mare's strength seemed to radiate from her, as if she had been born from the earth itself, a spirit of the wild. Elena couldn't explain it, but she trusted her. The silver mare was here to guide her, and she needed to find the strength to carry on, for Arion's sake, and for her own. "I'll follow you," Elena whispered, though the words seemed too small for the promise she wanted to make. She could hardly bear to think of her future without Arion by her side, but she knew she couldn't stay in this cave forever. The wilds were vast and dangerous, but they also held secrets, mysteries, and perhaps a way forward. The silver mare nodded, turning her head and giving a soft snort. She began to move, her graceful steps making no sound as she disappeared into the forest. Elena stood, feeling the weight of the world settle into her bones. Her body ached, both from the physical strain of running and from the grief she still carried, but there was something different now. Something inside her had shifted. She followed the mare, her steps slow at first, but with each one, the sense of purpose in her grew stronger. She had survived the attack. She had survived the wild beast. And now, she was going to move forward, not just as a girl who had lost everything, but as someone who carried the memory of the horse who had given his life to protect her. They moved through the dense forest, the trees looming like silent giants above them. The air smelled fresh, crisp, and filled with the scent of pine. The mare led the way, her path seemingly unfaltering, as though she knew exactly where she was going. Elena could hear the soft rustle of leaves underfoot, the chirp of birds in the distance, but the world felt strangely quiet. As they traveled deeper into the forest, Elena's mind raced. What had happened last night? Who, or what, was this silver mare? How had she known to come when the wild creature attacked? And what was her purpose in all of this? It was as if Arian's spirit had passed on to her, but in a new form. Hours passed, and the sun climbed higher in the sky. Elena had learned to move in silence, keeping a respectful distance from the mare, but never straying far from her. She felt a sense of safety with the mare beside her, though the questions still plagued her mind. At times, she could almost feel Arian's presence within her, guiding her steps, urging her onward. Finally, as dusk began to fall once more, they came upon a clearing. In the center of the clearing stood a large rock formation, its surface worn smooth by years of wind and weather. The silver mare stopped in front of the rocks and turned her head toward Elena. Her eyes seemed to gleam with a knowing look. "Elena," the mare's voice resonated in her mind, "this is the place. Here, you will understand what you must do. The path ahead is fraught with danger, but you are not alone. Arian's spirit will walk with you. I will walk with you. But you must trust in yourself." Elena stepped forward, feeling both a sense of awe and trepidation. She reached out, her fingers brushing the cool stone surface. It was warm to the touch, as if the rock itself had been touched by the hands of those who had passed before. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle around her. Suddenly, a low hum filled the air. At first, it was barely perceptible, but soon it grew louder, vibrating through the earth beneath her feet. Elena's eyes snapped open as a faint glow began to emanate from the rock itself. The silver mare took a step back, watching her intently. The hum turned into a deep, resonant sound, almost like a voice, but not quite. It was a language Elena didn't understand, a sound as ancient as the earth itself. The air shimmered with energy, and Elena felt her heart race as the rock began to split, a fissure appearing down the center. Slowly, as if moved by an unseen hand, the rocks parted, revealing a hidden passage beneath. A cold wind gusted up from the opening, carrying with it the scent of the wild, the scent of freedom and danger. The path ahead was unclear, but there was no turning back now. The silver mare stepped forward, her hooves clicking against the stone as she entered the passage. Elena hesitated for a moment but then followed, her resolve hardening. She didn't know what lay ahead, but she knew this was her destiny now. She had been chosen, for something far greater than survival. Arian's spirit had led her here, and now she had to carry that legacy forward. The passage was narrow, winding deep beneath the earth, and the further they traveled, the colder it became. The air was thick with the scent of moss and earth, and the soft glow from the rocks above seemed to fade with every step. Yet Elena didn't falter. The silver mare moved ahead, her presence steady and sure, a guiding light in the darkness. They walked for what felt like hours, but Elena never grew tired. Her mind was filled with the memory of Arian, the way he had fought to protect her, the way his spirit had whispered to her even in death. And now, as she followed the mare into the unknown, she knew that this was just the beginning. For Arian's sacrifice had not been the end of the story, it had been the beginning of a new journey. A journey where Elena would discover not only the truth of the wilds but the truth of her own heart. She would learn to fight, not just with her body, but with the courage of those who had come before her. And, with the silver mare by her side, she would learn to stand tall again.